Menopause, seizing the opportunity for better health. Welcome back to another episode of Navigating Midlife Live. And if that title or description seems completely off track or something that you're not used to hearing or seeing, you're right. It's not often talked about that menopause could be your opportunity to actually seize better health, improve your health. And these are the reasons why I say this. When we go into the stages of menopause, so for example, perimenopause, menopause, post-menopause, when we're going through the transition, it's at that time, and perimenopause starts to give us subtle signals. For some people, they can be quite um, they can be, quite debilitating or life altering. But for some people, they're also very, very subtle. A lot of people don't realize that they're actually entering perimenopause and they're starting to feel changes. When we're in menopause, the actual pause, that's when a lot of women are really going to feel it. That's when our symptoms become quite noticeable and life altering. And then post-menopause, well, a lot of women just chalk that up to this is aging. This is what it's like. And I know I've done a previous video on planning for aging. But here's the reason why I talk about this is because our body is giving us signals that we can't ignore. So typical women, we push a lot of stuff down or push a lot of stuff aside so that we can look after others or, perform really well at our careers, or perform really well as a mom and at our careers and, having a partner, and in some cases, not having a partner. So all of those things cause us to sort of ignore what we're feeling. And I've also talked previously about how women ignore their hunger signal. And so, not getting in the amount of food that we need to get in each day to support our body. So when we go into menopause, as I say, we start getting louder signals. Our body's saying, look, something's changing. I need your support. And at some point, now not for every woman, and I'm going to add a caveat to that in a second, but our body is really speaking to us. Our body is saying, I really need your support. It's time you pay attention to me, which is basically you. This is us, in what it human skin suit or something like that. Some people call it, this human skin suit. But inside of this body, inside of all of this skin, the body has a lot of needs and it does want your attention, your love, your care. Now, the caveat that I'm going to put on for some women that don't experience menopause, I'm not going to make a blanket statement or experience the symptoms of menopause because they all go through menopause. I'm not going to make a blanket statement, but in a lot of cases, I've seen women who have led very healthy lifestyles all the way through. For whatever reason, they were just, one of those people that didn't eat junk food or, gave their body what they needed. Um, a lot of those women don't experience really severe symptoms when they're going through the transition of menopause. Not going to say everybody, as I mentioned, but there are a lot of women like that. And I do find that when I talk to these women, because, when I'm out and I'm meeting people and I introduce myself as the menopause navigator, people will say, oh, I didn't feel a thing. So there are cases like that. Not all cases, but overall, they've led a very healthy lifestyle. So why is this? Let me get into further why this is an opportunity to seize better health going forward. It's I believe menopause is a rite of passage. When we get to this stage of life, we've experienced a lot of life, we've done a lot of things. It's now our rite of passage to start to focus on ourselves. Maybe we still have children at home, depending on how old you were when you had your last child, or even in some cases your first child. Sometimes your children are older; they're more apt to be able to be a little bit more independent. You still have young children. I believe this is an opportunity for you to really show those younger children how to care for themselves. We lead by example. Our children are constantly watching us, they're constantly listening to us. So, by leading by example, that's where they're going to pick up those good, healthy habits. And also, as women, when we start to pay attention to ourselves, when we start to take time and have boundaries, it's important for children to learn those things as well too, regardless of what age they're at. So I believe that it's an opportunity for you to leave basically a legacy of health, or start showing a legacy of health and well-being to your children when we're at this age. Now, as I say, your body is giving you very abrupt signals that it needs support. And it is, that opportunity to start to listen to our body and start to either work with somebody to support you through that transition, or maybe start to do some research on your own. There are some great books out there. I know a lot of that information can get very confusing as to what is best for each person, because every woman is unique. But it's a starting point, right? And hey, listening to my weekly YouTube casts, it's a starting point to start to get some information as to the things that we can start doing. And I also believe that this is a critical time for us to really lay the foundation for what our future health is going to look like. Uh, Women are living longer. It's not unusual for women now to live into their 80s, into their 90s. And I know personally, uh, getting to those ages, I still want to be vibrant and healthy at those ages. I want to be one of those active over 80-year-olds, possibly 90-year-olds, who's still a very going concern that I'm independent and I'm healthy and I'm strong. So for me, that's the way I look at it, is laying the foundation of what my future self is going to look like. And a lot of times we don't think about what our future self is going to look like, or the things that we're doing today, what impact is that going to have on our future? So it is an opportunity to start to lay that foundation of what our future health is going to look like, because we know all the statistics, right? We know that there's potential for bone loss, there's a potential for muscle loss, there's a potential, well, not a potential, but our stomach acid starts to decrease, and our digestive system may not be as strong. And then there can be effects with respect to those with regards to cognitive health. I mean, we do know it's constantly being talked about, is nutrition is a very big part of what our cognitive health is going to be like. And they're calling Alzheimer's sort of the type 3 diabetes, because they do now know that a lot of that has come from choices that have been made earlier, things like sugar and refined foods and those types of things. Not in all cases, but they know that that is a big contributor, right? So, what can you start to do? Because sometimes this can feel very ominous. It can feel like, where do I start with all of this? Start with the simplest thing. Pick one thing that you say, okay, this is easy for me to do. Um, for example, I'm going to really focus on getting in enough water each day. And in order to do that, because if you're not used to drinking water, get some type of a container that you can fill and take with you if you're on the road. I have a 750 ml insulated bottle that I take with me whenever I head out of the house. And it's there. And inevitably, I'm grateful for it when I get caught in traffic, because at least I have my water to keep me to keep me hydrated while I'm sitting there waiting for traffic to move. Um, and if that, if you work from home, then what I recommend to my clients is measure it out. Get a couple of, mason jars that are a liter, and, measure those out and to figure out how much water you need to have. Take your weight in pounds, divide it by two. That'll give you a number. So I'm going to use an easy number. 120 divided by 2 is 60. Take 60, divide that by 8, and that's going to, give you the number of glasses of water that you need, number of 8-ounce glasses of water you need to drink each day. So it's a starting point. It might be something else. It might just be, you know what, I'm going to focus on trying to work at getting to bed earlier. I'm going to try to work at getting to bed by 11 p.m. And, setting yourself some kind of reminder. Most of our smartphones have some type of reminder that we can set that goes off, telling us that it's time to wind down and start to get ready for bed. So it can be whatever you feel is going to be the easiest thing for you to do every day. And I always say to my clients, pick the one thing that regardless of what happens in the day, regardless of how crazy the day goes, pick that one thing that you can do regardless. And then once you've got that habit instilled in you that it's just second nature, you just do it automatically. In fact, you start thinking about it even before you get any reminders or anything like that. Then pick another one. It's always one step at a time, right? The saying goes, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So it can be something as simple as that. I will admit setting boundaries is probably one of the most difficult things to do, especially if we've been somebody who hasn't been great at boundaries. I'll raise my hand. I haven't been the greatest at boundaries in my life. And at times, committed to things that maybe I didn't really want to do, or committed to things that I felt I should say yes. Um, I my no, my word no was not an easy part of my vocabulary. So I said yes to a lot of things, including when I worked in the corporate world. When my superiors would come to me and say, "We need you to do this." It's only going to be for a short period of time, and then months later, you're still doing the task, and they're not paying you anymore for it, but it's an expectation that you continue to do it. And those types of situations are really what really started to affect my health, because the diligent person I am, I wanted to get those things done. So what did I do? I ended up getting up earlier. I ended up working later. I ended up eating at my desk, all those types of things, and taking on all the stress of that. So boundaries is definitely a harder one, but we have to start somewhere with boundaries. So pick the easy ones, or even if you say, rather than saying yes immediately, and if it's something in the back of your mind that you're saying, oh, I don't know if I really want to do this, just say, let me get back to you. I need to check my calendar. Find some type of a reason that you can delay it. It's coming through in email or text, and it's interesting. Some people feel that when they get a text or an email, they have to respond immediately, and we don't. We don't have to respond right that moment. I go back to the days of when we had telephones, right? with no voicemail. And if we weren't home or if we weren't available, that person would have to wait. They'd have to call back. We didn't even have call display way back then. So yeah, people would, they would just have to wait at that point. I want to take a moment here because I'm, going on and on, but I just want to take a moment to thank the people who are watching live. I appreciate you taking the time to pop in here and listen to me live. And if you feel that any of this information would benefit somebody else, please forward the link. I'd be greatly appreciated. If you haven't subscribed, I'd really appreciate you subscribing to my channel to help me grow my channel, because I'm sure you've seen by now, I'm very passionate about getting this information out to as many women as possible. So anyway, thank you for joining. So back to the topic. The other thing is that, and this is something that kind of troubles me. Menopause is spoken about in a very negative way. And I am not diminishing whatsoever the symptoms that a woman can feel and how debilitating it can feel when you're going through menopause. One of the things that I've shared occasionally, so prior to menopause, I had a major operation, and prior to menopause, um, my feet would swell. It was an operation to do with my lower abdominal area. And after the operation, my feet would swell. I assumed that, maybe my lymphatic system or my, uh, something was damaged or obstructed in some way. Well, when I went into menopause, my feet started to swell even more. Now, it wasn't just because of menopause. There were other underlying issues that were going on with my body. But my feet would swell to the point where they almost felt, it's gross to say, but they almost felt like they were going to burst out of my skin. They were so painful. And when I went to the doctor to ask, what can be done, is there something wrong with my kidneys? Like, what's going on? And of course, we did all the testing and there was nothing wrong. And he just said, well, you're going to have to wear medical support stockings. And they were the strongest version of medical support stockings available. And I was only 48 at the time. And I just thought, wow, like there's no solution to this. And and then all the other symptoms started. The hot flashes, the sleepless nights, the weight gain, everything. It all started. And I wasn't willing to accept that. But all I heard was all the negatives of menopause. Oh, you're not going to be able to think. You're not going to want to have sex anymore. There was just so many negatives, and I just thought, why? Why is this so negative? Why do we talk about menopause this way? And when I went to school and started to heal my body, I just thought, I want women to feel amazing in menopause. This is going to be my goal. And even when I say to women, I love being in menopause, I truly mean that with all of my heart, that I love being in menopause. And some of women will just look at me as if to say, what is wrong with you? And then when I start to explain how I feel and the things that I've done to recoup my health, they're like, oh, okay. So anyway, that is a big part of my goal. I have a comment here that I want to pop up on the screen. Michelle Ho, and Michelle was supposed to be my guest today, and we had we just had unfortunately the scheduling didn't work out. So I am going to have her on as a guest. So Michelle, I really appreciate you watching, and um, and you sharing your comment here as far as the tips and building sustainable habits. Yes, absolutely. And, boundaries are a big one, right? So Michelle's going to be a guest sometime in November. We just have to firm up the date, but I do appreciate you being here today at this time. So But yeah, I don't know why. And well, no, okay, let's go back. I do know why menopause is looked upon as such a negative. Way back in the 60s, menopause was thought of almost like a disease, and that's where the hormones, the hormone replacement therapy, was basically starting to be talked about so much. And the way it was phrased is that, well, the way for a woman to keep her youth was through this hormone medication. So it was almost viewed like a disease. So it was started to look at as a very negative thing, that if the only way that I can remain youthful is to go on the hormone therapy, which some women didn't want to go on, but also, why are we so tied to youth and looking youthful? I mean, my mom was 88 when she passed away, and I look at pictures of her, and she was beautiful. Yes, she had lines and wrinkles, and but she was still beautiful. She had beautiful skin, and she had a beautiful soul. And we tie ourselves to this youthful look without any wrinkles or lines, and I think that that adds a level of frustration for certain women who have decided to age at life in a more natural way, rather than getting certain procedures done. And I have nothing against women getting procedures done, but does that add a complication to the aging process and to menopause? And the fear of menopause, the fear of how we're going to age, what's going to happen to our skin, are we going to feel sexy? I can tell you at 64 years old, I still feel very sexy. I haven't lost that. And that for me is more of a mental thing, I think, more than anything, because I don't have a partner, but I feel very sexy. Yes, okay. Do we have to change the way that we eat to support our bodies through the stages of menopause? Yes, we do. But is that a bad thing? Because again, that lays the foundation of health going forward. First and foremost, my training is as a nutritionist. And I see that as the absolute foundation of health. There's so many other components, right? There's the environment we live in, the environment we work in, um, uh, you know, any potential just words wouldn't come out, genetic disorders. I was trying to say the two words at once. Any genetic issues that might be happening, the way that we've eaten before, those things can have an effect on us. But at, at the absolute foundation, our food sets that foundation for today and going forward. And I cook very simple. I keep things really simple. So, maybe it's the decision of, okay, today I'll put some extra vegetables on my plate. Um, you know, Today when I'm craving that cookie, maybe I'll just, go for a walk, or just take 10 minutes to do some deep breathing. And who was it? There was somebody I was watching that said, when you have a craving, say to yourself, I'm going to wait 30 minutes and still have whatever you were craving, but rather than automatically responding to that craving right at that moment, showing your body that if you wait, you can still have it. And maybe at that point, you don't even want it anymore. Maybe whatever was going on isn't important at that point. So anyway, I'm 24 minutes in here, so I don't want to make this too much longer, but I really, really believe that menopause is our opportunity to seize our health. It is an opportunity to lay the foundation for future. And I've shared before, and I'll continue to share, that at 64, I feel better than I did at 52, 53, even 54, even in my late 40s. I feel way better today. And it's because of all the things that I've done over the last um, uh, 10 years, 11 years, over the last 11 years, since I entered school and started making changes. So if you're somebody who, would really like help, and you're ready to start feeling better, or you're just you're just uncertain as to what information is right for you. You're maybe thinking of getting some one-on-one work, but you don't know what that would really look like. I'd invite you to at least, I always say, you owe it to yourself to have a call. Let's just have a 30-minute call. This is all about you. I want to hear about you. I want to hear about your frustrations, the things that you're dealing with that you would like to change. Have a call with me, and then we can go from there. Um, Sometimes a phone call is just all you need to maybe prompt you to start making some other changes. Who knows? I'd really like to thank you for joining in today or listening. If you're watching the replay, thank you very much for watching the replay. I hope you have a great day. I'll be back again next week. Not sure of the topic. It's always just something that comes to me, but I will be back next week. So have a great rest of the day, a great rest of the week, and thank you for joining. Bye.